Hello and welcome back to the Villa View for another match preview as Aston Villa travel to the Stadium of Light to face Sunderland. So Matt, thanks for joining me for this preview. Villa head to the Stadium of Light on Tuesday, tomorrow night as we're recording this. How do you see the game going against bottom of the league?
I know it's cliche to say it, and it is cliche to say it. It's the fact that this is actually a tougher game than possibly many fans may be wondering and thinking it might be, because away from home, typically, we've had a good season so far. You know, it takes a lot of heart and gut out of the game where we beat Sheffield Wednesday 4-2. But Sunderland are an improving side. I know they might be bottom of the league, but they've drawn 3 of their last 5 games, only losing twice. And I think they come from behind with 10 men as well in one of them games as well. So they've got a bit of pedigree at the moment in terms of scoring goals, which is something that we need to prevent, obviously. But I think in the end of the day, we should be comfortably beating this side and hopefully putting 4 or 5 past them and making sure that we sort of set the benchmark, because Fulham are up there now. You look at how tight it's becoming. Fulham, Cardiff, you know, it's really tight up there. So we need to set a benchmark against the bottom team. Just
before we go into Sunderland a little bit, we've said for ages on here about, Cardiff might drop off, Derby might drop off, things like this. Now we're at the business end of the season, like everybody's saying. Do you think there is that possibility that, you know, it's Fulham's to take second now, or it's in Cardiff's hands, or will those teams drop off?
I think you could say it's in Cardiff's hands, because you look at their fixtures and they've got to play a fair few teams that are in the top 10 or so. Villa are more fortunate where we don't, and the same goes for Fulham as well. So it opens up the gap a bit, because Cardiff have got these tougher games to come, unlike Villa. So it's all about the running for me, and that makes the difference. The pressure is always on the team in second. If you're in the chasing pack, you're in a better position, I think, personally, just because you've got less pressure as such. And the only pressure you've got is to try and force yourselves into that second position. If you're in second place, it's your position to lose by the end of the season, in the end of the day. And Cardiff are coming into Villa Park fairly soon as well. So there's going to be pressure on them then, and it's going to all get really tight. And I think it's going to come down to the last game of the season if we're looking at it prospectively at the moment. And one team you didn't mention there is Derby, lost at the weekend to Fulham 2-1. And they're curtailing at the moment. They've had a few bad results and they need to curtail that at some point.
Going back to Sunderland then, we looked at their last few fixtures. I think they got something against Millwall, but the 2 games before that, I think they've scored 3 goals but only drew them 3-3. Is that right?
Yeah, it is, Middlesbrough.
So for a team at the bottom, they're scoring 6 goals in 2 games or whatever, but if you concede 6 goals in that period as well and you only come away with it from 2 points, when you're struggling at the bottom of the league, you think if you score 6 goals, you must be picking up 3 or 4 wins with that if you're winning games, 1-0. But to only get 2 points from games when you've scored 6 goals it shows why they're down the bottom, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, they're a poor outfit, and I don't think that any manager worth his stock can go in there and make a difference. We're talking off camera about Chris Coleman's first game. Yeah. Was against Villa, and nothing's really changed there. There was sort of a spike after the Villa game because they played really well against us, in fairness, and since then they had a little spike, but in reality they're never going to recover from last season. You look at those players and there's not really anything there that means that they can hold a lead. There's no sort of midfield maestro or someone that's going to have the grit and determination to win it for them, because they've got nothing in midfield, and I think that's where we can exploit them, because we've got so many options in midfield that can exploit a really weak Sunderland defence as well.
One player that they did have at the start of this season was Lewis Grabban, obviously now at Villa. Scored a good amount of goals for them as well, for a team that's at the bottom. I think it was 10 or 11. How important would it be to have somebody like him in our squad who knows their players and their fans and the way they play and things like that? How will that affect us with him on our team now?
Oh, it's a huge positive from my perspective. You always want that inside knowledge, the inside line of what they're going to be playing like. And I think in the mindset of Lewis Grabban, he'll want to get one over them as well. Equally, I know he found his form again with Sunderland, but he's with Villa now. So for his perspective, he wants to do his best he can, obviously, for the team and to potentially earn himself a deal at Villa, which I must admit I'm against. But I think that he'll know the knowledge of the side and know what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are. And that really comes to the forefront in moments where we might be struggling, because we will have patches in the game where we won't have the ball, and we'll have patches in the game when we're not at our best.
Obviously, Saturday's game against QPR was postponed due to the extreme weather conditions, I think the tweet said. How will that affect Villa coming into this game? Will it be beneficial to have had a few games rest, or will we be thinking we've missed out on a game and another chance to pick up some points?
It's a good time to play QPR at the moment. There's no hiding that. They've been up and down all season. Ian Holloway's losing it a little bit, to say the least, and there's no better time to play them at the moment. So it's really frustrating that game has had to be rearranged. But equally, in hindsight, it means the likes of Jack Grealish apparently touch and go to potentially play tomorrow. Albert Dome was definitely going to be 100% fit. So there's all these positives as well of the game being postponed equally as much as the negatives that go with it. So, you know, it'd be nice to have that momentum, but at the end of the day, it's only 3 extra days from playing on Saturday to playing tomorrow evening.
As I said, we'll go on to team in just a second, but there's one player that I want to pull out first before we go into that, and that's Jack Grealish. We don't know at this stage whether he's fit, I don't think, but let's say he is fit. Let's just pretend that we know that, even though we don't, that Jack Grealish is fit tomorrow to play. Are you of the mindset to play him against Sunderland and get him back into the fold, or do you think that don't rush him back too soon because we might not need a player of Jack's quality against bottom of the league? Which do you think is more feasible there, that you play him and get him back playing, or you think we'll give him a few more days, we don't need him in this game?
At the end of the day, if he's good to go, he's good to go. I think that's how it should be seen. And if he's got enough fitness to be playing, then play him, for God's sake. He's the best player in that team by no shadow of a doubt. In the last few weeks, months even, he's been excellent since he's come back. And he unlocks a different dimension to the side. He creates chances that no other player does because he's so sort of off the cuff and raw that you can't predict what he's going to do next. And from my perspective, he needs the minutes to get back to that fitness level. So if anything, look at bringing him on after like 60 minutes, say bring him on then, give him half an hour or so just to get the blood pumping, so to speak, and then go into the weekend with him having some more minutes under his belt and ready to play full 90 minutes. It's logical, really, because I don't think we possibly will need him tomorrow, especially with Snodgrass and Adoma, and then Grabban and then Hogan. So I don't think we need him particularly, but it'd be nice to give him 30 minutes under his belt just to get his ready for the weekend when it really does matter.
Yeah, for me, I think if he's fit, like you say, he definitely plays. I saw a few arguments for and against it on Twitter for people saying that, you know, give him that extra bit of rest, we don't need him. And then the other side of the argument to just get him back playing as soon as possible. I think that, as you were saying earlier, that this game might not be as easy as people think, just because they're bottom of the league. You know, they're fighting for every point they can get. They've had a few games now of scoring goals, getting points here and there. It's away from home as well. If you've got someone like Jack Grealish fit and ready to play, I think at this point of the season especially, you've got no choice but to play him, I think. So take me through a full 11 then. What would you be playing? We always talk about what would Bruce do, but what would you do for this game?
I thought about this before coming on air with you, and I think that it's going to be an unsettled back four, but equally I've got no problems with playing the back four that I'm going to go with. So obviously Johnson in goal. Left back, Neil Taylor's going to have to come in. You know, Hutton, major date, as they've said. Trinzabi is not quite there, I don't think, from what I've read. Right back, El Mohammadi picks himself at the moment. He has been really good. I was one of the sceptics in the summer and said, I don't quite know why we need him, but his delivery's been first rate. And, you know, for one of the goals against Sheffield Wednesday, he couldn't have been a better ball into the box for the goal. So from that perspective, centre-backs, obviously James Chester and John Terry. Moving further forward, I think that Bjarnason was really unfortunate to get dropped for the Sheffield Wednesday game, really unfortunate, but Whelan did a job. I know he let up for one of their goals, but he scored as well. He did a job, but I think I'd go with Bjarnason back in there, holding that defensive pivot, because that's where we've seen the best of him since he's been more in the fold and more in the picture. So I'd go with Bjarnason there, and then sitting in front of that, obviously, Conor Hourihane in sort of the roaming role, because I think recently he's had the shackles put back on him again. I know he scored a few goals, but I still think the shackles have been on him a little bit more. So I think he needs that more freedom again right in the midfield pack. And then obviously either side of that, you're going to have Snodgrass on the one side. And then the opposite side, you're going to have Adoma. Totally forgot his name there for not some unknown reason. And then it's interesting because then you can either pack out the midfielder with the 5 and go with an extra midfielder in there as the whole, or then you push further forward and you have Hogan and Grabban with one sitting behind the other. From my perspective, I'd go with, for this game, just because it's Sunderland, I'd go with the 2 up front, or the 4-4-1-1, so to speak, with Grabban and then Hogan further forward, or vice versa, because we've got the clinicalism in that side now. Hogan scored a few goals, Grabban scored a few goals. You know, there's goals all over this team. I think I read a stat the other day that this is the best season we've had for some times in terms of the goals share between the players, how many players have scored a goal for us, you know. I don't think there's any worry about players scoring goals and contributing anymore. So why not give it a go? Because at the end of the day, this is a free hit in the terms of we should be winning this, whatever happens.
So you think win by any means possible? What's your prediction then?
Well, it actually came up my timeline today that on this day in 2015 we beat them with a Bonglaw scoring a goal, believe it or not, against them. Tim Sherwood in charge. So I think it's going to be a 3-0 win. We've got a good record against Sunderland in recent years, and it'd be nice to get another one over them.
I'm nowhere near as confident as you. I think we'll win. I don't think it's going to be as easy as some people might think. So I'll go with 2-1, Grabban and Terry to score. I'll keep saying Terry for a goal, but it's not happened yet. Big thanks to Matt once again for helping me out with this preview. Obviously, as we've said, Dan is away this week, so there'll also be no podcast recorded this week. However, what we're going to do is, like we did with the John Gregory interview a few weeks back, we're going to clip down the Ian Taylor episodes and post that as a bonus episode. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to leave it a like and subscribe to the channel with your post notifications on. All the help you give us is really appreciated and helps the channel grow. Thanks for watching. Up the Villa.
If you enjoyed that video, why not watch another? Click the video choices on screen now to go and watch them in full. Be sure to subscribe to the channel by clicking our logo there on the left. Easy peasy.